Well, if you're one of the lucky few who came out alive on the other side of The Witcher Season 4, you probably discovered that your pain wasn't over yet. Season 4's credits start rolling, you're sitting there, exhausted, baffled, and just disheartened by what Netflix has done with the Witcher franchise, and then you see that play next button pop up for The Rats, a Witcher tale. Yep, remember those 6 dipshit rejects called the Rats that we met at the end of Season 3 and who we spent an excruciating amount of time with in Season 4? The ones who all died and will have no further bearing on the story? Yeah, they got their own feature-length Netflix film. Originally imagined as a spin-off series, news about the Rats had been so sparse that many thought the series had been cancelled, only for its corpse to rise from the dead just in time for Halloween and Dia de los Muertos. Apparently, they decided to take all the footage they shot for that when the project went to shit and slam together a movie. A movie they were so clearly proud of that they shadow dropped it on the same day as The Witcher Season 4 and barely told anyone about it. Likely hoping it would just come and go without facing any of the criticism it deserves. Hell, they didn't even bother to post a trailer for this nonsense. But if there's one thing you can count on here at HateWatchers, it's that bad movies that are symptomatic of Hollywood's greater sickness will never fly under the radar. So we're not going to let the Rats off the traps that easy. With the Rats, it's not just that their whole gang of rejects are the kinds of unlikable protagonists that you find yourself rooting against, although that is a major problem with this tale, but it's just that, in the whole wide world of The Witcher, there are few stories that people would want to see less than this one. Perhaps only the tale of Geralt's tampon, or how Jaskier got his masculine bob haircut, would fail to be more intriguing than the story of the Rats. Or the lives and stories of Geralt's many steeds named Roach, though that still might actually be more interesting. Even this gnome's backstory would have made for more interesting subject matter. In a world of monsters, warring kingdoms, espionage, sorcerers, and some of the most badass, well-trained fighters in fantasy literature, Witcher fans are forced to settle for a tale about 6 buffoons running petty scams who are accurately and most appropriately likened to rodents. Watching not gay Jaskier sing and prance about for an hour 20 would have been more palatable than this story. Anyway, I watched The Rats so you don't have to, and when I asked in my Witcher Season 4 video if you all wanted to see a review of it, quite a few of you wanted me to do a video on it, presumably just to prolong my pain. So I hope my pain is your gain, because here it is. But be careful what you wish for. With a movie like this, no one wins. But we'll at least have some fun with it. Enough rambling, let's get into the breakdown, which means spoilers ahead. Like you even care. We begin with Leo Bonhart taking a captive Ciri and a barrel full of the Rats' heads to some baron for payment, because nothing gets you invested in characters' stories more than showing us right up front that they all die. I also like how they included Ciri in the opening scene to get people more invested in a movie that she's not even a part of, because they know the movie's story has no legs on its own. Anyway, Bonhart the bounty hunter tells Ciri a story about the Rats from 6 months earlier. I feel like I sufficiently described each of the Rats in my last video, so I'm just gonna cut in that clip right here. The Rats, a despicable gang of thieves made up of a wonderfully diverse group of rejects. You've got the black lesbian with the funky hairdo that's too cool to be in charge. You've got the slutty elf. You've got a coke-addicted Colombian. You've got a guy named Kaylee. You've got this tub of lard whose name is Ass with an E at the end, look it up. And then you have this white guy who the black girl allows to think he's in charge. In Bonhart's story, the Rats encounter a washed-up old witcher named Brihin, played by Dolph Lundgren. And, early on here, this scene actually made me smile. The only time I smiled for the entire 80 minutes of the film, because a drunk Dolph Lundgren, ironically, is a pretty dead-on Sylvester Stallone impression.
Shut up.
What a scam!
Shut the hell up.
I told you to stick to my left.
There's an action.
Because you're drunk.
I wonder if that was a conscious choice by Dolph. The Rats are here to rip off the prize chest from a rigged fight, and they make off with their haul, only to find that it's full of useless tchotchkes. So the rat fucks go meet a psychic who can direct them to their next job, and they hear about a prime opportunity. The only problem is that Missile, the heart and soul of the group and Ciri's future lesbian abuser, was personally victimized by their new mark, Bert Brigden. For you see, Missile was not always a gutter rat with a funky hairdo and a mustache. She used to be the perfect little princess. betrothed to an older man, and with a secret beautiful lesbian relationship on the side. But just before the wedding, Nilfgaard destroyed her home, and she was raped by Brigden before her girlfriend was killed right in front of her. Back in the present, the group agrees to take the job as long as Missile promises to keep her emotions in check and not seek revenge, only gold. She agrees and the group takes the job, despite Missile's obvious conflicts of interest and the fact that she's clearly the most unstable one in the group. While the rats are casing the fighting ring they're looking to rob, the presence of a horrific monster complicates their plans, so they have to recruit the washed-up Witcher Brihin, and that takes some convincing. 2 of the rats go to a brothel where this walking, talking YouTube community guideline strike helps them get one over on a mark that gives them an invite to the fights they're going to rip off. Over time, the Witcher and the rats bond, and apparently they have weeks to train, despite it looking pretty clear that the event they're robbing was happening imminently. But no script's inherent desire for consistency in storytelling is a match for a truly shitty writer, so time stops, I guess, while Dolph Lundgren gets his own weeks-long 80s movie training montage. The big day finally comes and they head to the fights and get in position, but Leo Bonhart shows up to the fights too. Missile, to the surprise of absolutely fucking no one, lets the job get personal and she attacks Brigden. Brihin, the Witcher, goes to face off with the monster, but feeding it the specially crafted soy milk potion the Witcher brewed doesn't do the trick, leaving the monster to enter a soy rage. But it turns out the monster is actually Missile's long-thought-dead ex-girlfriend Juniper. Missile thinks Juniper looks pretty chopped now, but she feels bad regardless and tries to save her. However, the only way to do that is to transfer the curse to someone else. So they drag in Brigden to transfer the curse to him, but then Bonhart saunters in search of some slaughtering. Bonhart and Brihin face off as the monster attacks the rest of the rats. Missile can't bring herself to kill Juniper, until somehow she can, and she does. Then Ass kills Brigden by sitting on him, and Brihin helps the rats escape before staying behind to buy them time. Bonhart lands a killing blow, but Brihin brings the tower down on top of them. Meanwhile, the rats are rich, free, and sad they lost their crotchety old man they knew for several weeks. Then the coke-addicted Colombian calls shotgun in a world where guns don't exist, and this shit show ends. For a few seconds, that is, until we get a final scene of Bonhart surviving, which we already knew he would, and he wraps up relaying the tale to Ciri. The end. The Rats feels like one of those very rare instances where no one cares to hear this story, and even the creators start to realize that. Especially when you look at how little fanfare the Rats released to, and how they reduced the marketing budget to 0. But, I guess, with so much footage in the can, they went ahead and dropped this turd on us anyway. Uninteresting subject matter and lame characters are going to be the death knells of any project, unless you, as a masterful storyteller, can find a way to tell your tale in an intriguing way and make people care about characters they otherwise wouldn't. Of course, the writer here and the other creators are entirely incapable of any of that. The rejects at the heart of this story are just as unlikable as they were in Season 4 of The Witcher. I'm told that the Rats are pretty detestable in the books, and that the show and this movie's portrayal of them tries to smooth out some of their rougher edges and more egregious behaviors, in order to make them more palatable. Well, mission not accomplished. I still hate these rat fucks, and watching Bonhart slaughter them in Season 4 will never not be satisfying. And the whole film had that same shitty, Netflix level of production quality we've come to expect. Crisp, clean costumes straight out of the package, picked up from the Spirit Halloween clearance rack, adorning characters living in a fantasy world that looks like it's made out of plastic. Every line of terrible dialogue delivered by these overacting theater kids was a chore to get through. Even Dolph Lundgren, who pretty much gets the seal of approval for anything he does just as a matter of course, couldn't move the needle on this trash. I couldn't feel anything but shame for him for getting involved with this. And I hope he got a big bag for this one, but I fear he didn't. Now, I said in my review of The Witcher Season 4 that the show had no redeeming qualities, and that largely holds true. But in my haste to get a video out and put The Witcher out of my mind for another year, I was probably neglectful in not saying that Sharlto Copley and his Leo Bonhart character were actually a lone bright spot in the season. And the same could be said for his presence in The Rats. He brought a brutality and a sinister seriousness to both the show and this movie that put everyone else on set to shame. But no one, not even he, could have put out this dumpster fire. The Rats is right up there with Blood Origin as one of the worst things to ever bear the Witcher label. But The Rats is probably even worse, because at least Blood Origin tried to broach some interesting subject matter in the Witcher universe before fucking it up royally. The Rats, on the other hand, was a tale no one cared to hear, and by the time it came out, I think even the creators knew that. But the creators' plan to bury this movie might have actually worked to some degree, because it's hard as hell to even find ratings of The Rats in the usual places. There are too few audience ratings on Rotten Tomatoes for them to even post a score. And they had a grand total of 1 critic review. And they don't even have a page for the movie on Metacritic. The only score I found was a 4.5 out of 10 on IMDb, a site that's usually far more favorable to this kind of crap than the general public is. But let's be honest, I don't think we even need to see scores for The Rats to know how it was received. The Rats is the kind of low-quality, who asked for this pet project made by the kind of untalented creators Netflix hoards like a dragon hoards gold, and it was always going to be a hate watch. At this point, there's got to be some kind of ancient prophecy about Netflix being destined to put out shitty Witcher projects that we're watching be fulfilled. There's no other explanation for this consistent level of incompetence. Allegedly, you can only watch The Rats on Netflix once you've watched all of The Witcher Season 4's episodes. And after seeing the quality of both of those projects, that's gotta be one of the most sadistic things Netflix could do. Not that you'd want to watch either of these, but requiring people sit through Season 4 of The Witcher for anything is cruel and unusual. Sources close to The Rats production described it as a disaster, and someone involved declared it was shaping up worse than Witcher Blood Origin. But I guess the bar over at Netflix is so low that, somehow, The Rats returned, rather than just scrapping the whole thing. I suppose it makes no difference now, though. It's not like the perception of Netflix's The Witcher could be any lower at this point. Did morbid curiosity get the better of you and spur you to watch The Rats? Can you think of any other tales in the world of The Witcher that you want to hear less than this one? Let us know in the comments below. And remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to HateWatchers for reviews of other current shows and movies. Thank you for sharing my pain with me today, and I'll catch you on the next one.